Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Beautiful Colleen is almost in the house. And YouTube has just sent us a message saying you are seriously now live. Thank you, YouTube, for the one and only time. Okay, now I'm just waiting for the tricky YouTube window. Oh, good, there it is. It's already muted. Fantastic. There's the video. Yahoo! It's Charlie and Colleen, all the way from Mexico, where, by the way, it has rained every single night for almost an entire month, and that doesn't happen here. And so Mexico, us, like everybody else, is just experiencing the most bizarre of weathers, bizarre of everything, because it's a movie. You won't believe it unless you see it, and you have to see it to believe it. And they're not holding anything back. They're rolling it out. And remember, had she won, I believe strongly that we would have already had experienced this. 2020, clearly, 2020 was the year, and 2021 would have been a disaster. It would have been an absolute disaster. This year, which I know many of you look at and feel that this is a disaster, it really would have been a disaster. And what we're talking about is hundreds of millions, if not billions of deaths. And a reminder to everyone, again, going back to the Georgia Guidestones, I think Colleen and I were the first ones to sort of decode this and express this to everyone. The 500 million that were of us, the bloodline of Abraham to Noah to Seth, brother of Abel, murdered by Cain, us Abel ones, the 500 million that were to be left over as per the Georgia Guidestone, they're not for workers. We already possess the technology to do virtually everything by robot, by computer, by Android, whatever. There's really virtually no necessity for workers. So then you ask yourself, what are the 500 million? What are the 500 million for then? This is a straw. And they were going to be young women and children, young women for bearing more children, and children for sticking the straw in and sucking the blood out. And when you see that scene in the Matrix where Neo has to be disconnected from his actual reality, that little cocoon was never going to produce a butterfly. And that's essentially where our children were headed. And the rest of us would not have experienced that at all, that we would have been eliminated. So 2021 was the year of great elimination. 221 is 5, 5 is crucifixion. With Christ Jesus, Jesus Christ, Joshua, crucifixion is essential. It is the letting go of the left brain, crossing the river as Jacob did to meet God face to face in a place called Pine Needle. But to them, it's elimination. So that's what we were facing. So there were a lot of comments today from during the day, and really good comments. And basically, and then when we announced we were going to do the show tonight, a lot of people were just saying, thank you very, very much. It's almost like just making us feel better, because just being part of this family and just loving and trusting in everyone, it really is great. It truly is. And a lot of people were just saying that with the advent of -48, who is just a gem. With the advent of -48, I guess accentuating what we've already been saying, but it really drives home the point. Hi, Christy. Love you, love you, Christy from Aussie land. Yike.
Paisley.
Aaron Gorn, love you. So with that, a lot of people were just saying that because of this confirmation of all the things that we've been sharing through -48 and all the things that -48 is so wonderfully selflessly sharing, a lot of people are starting to see this as a movie and taking to heart what we said on our live show a few nights ago. And on that one, we were just saying, this is the end of an era and we're not going to experience this again. So, so it's to enjoy, as remember, as so many horrible things will be revealed, the good incredibly outweighs them. I know that sounds almost impossible to comprehend at times, but it is true. What you're going to find is that everything about God and everything about Jesus and everything about our Divine Mother and everything about this earth and everything about us as being the pinnacle of God's creation is true. And that will massively outweigh everything. And we're both so excited to do this show tonight because it's something that the Freemasons, it's a question that we've considered, because remember, we were the first ones 3 years ago that approached the subject that everything you know is a lie. Now would you like to hear some truth? And then we unveiled symbology and numerology as the base, as God's language, as the basis to everything that is God. So it can't be bad. And we were just so misunderstood and attacked via saying that pyramids are incredibly good, and that the all-seeing eye is the pineal gland in the capstone of the pyramid, is the pineal gland activated, which is everything. That's what you have to do.
And it's kind of understandable, the stages of awakening that we go through, and then we see how progressively the information that we've been taught is a lie, and then we see that it's actually inversed. And so that actually means that what's been shown to us that is evil, you just have to invert it. And then you find out that it's God's language. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before I jump back into what I was saying, a number of comments and basically saying the same thing. Angelica just said, I slept better because I listened to -48, and it's magic. And you see, it is because you're getting all of these confirmation comms that what we've been sharing with you is the truth. And now you're just feeling, wow. So
Another layer of gnosis, right? It's just,
it's another layer. So it is a warm vest, close. Keep your family and children very, very close to you.
Family is everything.
Keep God and Jesus even closer to you, close to the vest. Play close to the vest always. That's what that expression means, is keeping within you what is, which is your real family and the truth. So that's perfectly normal to be feeling this way, to be sleeping better, to just feel a couple of people made the comments that they felt almost guilty because knowing what they know about the children and everything else, but they were just starting to feel really good about things and excited about things and feeling that we're coming close to this great reveal. And I just responded and said, don't you dare for a second. Just remember, how do we repay everyone that we've forgotten about, everyone that we left behind, which we should never have done, but we did. And how do we repay to make sure none of this ever happens again? And I know you're with me. I know every single one of you are with me. I know that we've all learned our lesson. We've learned the lesson for an age. We've learned a lesson for eternity, and we're not going to let this happen ever again. So this is just really exciting, really, really, really exciting. Hi, Eva in Florida. Eva, we're loving you. Eva, I can't even begin to count those hearts, but I would imagine there might be 17 hearts. Yeah. Smalls, who's the left brain ego, is in the room, and he's saying, Charlie always claims to be the first one to be saying so many things and without any evidence. Well, Smalls, all you have to do is go back and watch our videos and then do a timestamp on all the videos that we did, and then you'll know. Like I said, when we came out, we were the social pariah. So much had been revealed by Santos, and all of us are indebted to Santos Bonacci, who really is a true genius of the mind. And much of our awakening came through the likes of Bill Donahue and Santos Bonacci, and we love them so dearly. And then, of course, for us to meet Josh X and to be able to tap into the genius that is Josh as well was really a wonderful thing and a huge thing for us. But let me remind everyone what we've been saying to you. And I didn't come out and say this in the beginning because we were already social pariah enough when we first came out. But slowly I've been releasing this, and that is that virtually all of our gnosis over the last 3 years has simply come from downloads from God. It is a truly absolutely amazing gift. And this is, once again, when you experience this, you just don't want to let it go. You'll never, ever, ever want to let that go, because it is the gift of all gifts, because this is real treasure and this is real wealth, because this is the knowing of oneself. So really, really exciting. So I love your positive comments and strength, and you should feel this way. And as I said to you before, remember, negative 48 in and of himself, whoever it is a calm. So negative 48 definitely is part of the White Hats, the Q team. And his now being released is the greatest single signal that we've ever, it's a smoke signal, and it's the greatest smoke signal that we've received yet, telling us that, confirming that all of this is a movie and that we are coming close to the end. And there's more and more people out of the White Hats that are suddenly starting to appear, and comments are being made by, now who was McEnany? Kaylee McEnany. And now negative 48 has come right out and said that Kaylee is one of the first 3 children that are from John Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, and that the first 3 children were conceived very early on, and that they were married earlier than what was reported in the news, which of course makes perfect sense, and that John F. Kennedy Jr.'s sister, and most people don't know this, but John F. Kennedy Jr.'s sister, Fatima, who is from President John Kennedy and Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy, but that was from a surrogate mother as well. And that daughter, there were 3 daughters and 2 sons, and that daughter to John F. Kennedy Jr. is Fatima. And Fatima, as we understand it, is the donor or bearing mother of this wondrous seed from John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn. And out of those first 3 children, one of them is Kaylee McEnany, and who has been playing the role brilliantly, by the way, brilliantly as President Trump's press secretary, best press secretary ever. Absolutely not even close. So so this is all really, really, really exciting and really amazing. And
I was just going to say, can you imagine growing up? I mean, probably none of us have experienced these kinds of things where we've had to hide our children. Like, you know, you watch movies about, I don't know which movies show us that people end up having children and they have to ship them off somewhere else and being raised by other people so that you can protect them. I mean, in our world, we just don't encounter those kinds of things, but these people grew up like this. So it's very real to have these kinds of events and scenarios to be taking place within families. And to us, it seems really hard to believe, but yeah, these things are real. When you're talking about dark versus light, we're talking about evil that has permeated our entire world. And unbeknownst to us, these are the lives that these people have had to live in order to, at some point, make this beautiful plan come to fruition. And they've had to infiltrate, they've had to change their names. They've basically had to do the exact same things that the infiltrators of the dark side have done. And so it shouldn't come to as a huge surprise to us, because we find out like Tom Hanks is actually one of the Rothschilds or Rockefellers.
Yeah, cousin to
right. None of us knew that. This is the way that they have lived their life. And so the opposite is true for the white hats as well. So it's an amazing story. It just gives me goosebumps to think about it. And the confirmations will come very, very soon, because they said transparency will be, it'll be completely shown to all of us. There will be nothing hidden anymore.
Because there can't be, because the basis to the Jesus strand comes from Jesus, and that was the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God. So there cannot be anything that is excluded out of this. And Colleen and I, so funny, but we had the cojones over the last 3 years to basically say that if the Q team, President Trump, which we love so much, if they were planning on withholding any truth, because at the time there was just like no comms with regard to the true nature of the earth, which is still silent level within the firmament. Colleen and I had the audacity to say that that we would turn around and confront them with that, because there has to be total release of the truth. We have to know. The only way to truly know our enemy is to fully know ourselves. And the only way we can fully know ourselves is to feel the emotions that come through hearing all of the truth. Nothing can be withheld. No matter how low and how dark some of those things are, or how wondrous and high, we have to feel all of those things. We absolutely do. So we've just been that way all along. And so, you know, especially not so much Colleen, who just a true angel, but Charlie, me, is someone that is, and Colleen knows this and has told you many times that I don't turn off. I'm like this 24/7, 365, and there is no compromise. There is no compromise in me. And the reason being is that when I came to recognize that everything was a lie, I knew that my entire life was structured the way it was to be this person to share the truth. And that's not very popular in an upside down world of total lies. He who comes along and begins to share the truth is not a very popular.
And we get the fact that person. If Hillary had won, we wouldn't be sitting here telling you these things.
No.
We would have tried telling you these things, and they would have taken us out instantly. So,
but there would have been a heck of a fight. There would have been a heck of a fight. Don't kid yourselves. We're not going anywhere, without our own consent. So, So the show tonight is the true history of the Freemasons. And since our live show, which, by the way, that was amazing. It was a great show, and it was so fun to share that with you. And it was so wonderful to have Justin and Eugene with Colleen and I. And we're so always so proud of Justin, and very, very proud of Eugene, who he that's what Eugene's like too. And every day he comes over to help us, and every day when he leaves, he says, love you, super dad, love you, super mom. And then we always say, love you, super son. And then he's on his way back home and back where he's staying with Justin. And so they did a wonderful job, and it was a wonderful podcast. And so we said to you, we revealed a lot of things in that podcast. And one of the things that we talked about was something that like I said earlier, that we've known for quite a while, but these are certain things that, like, literally you just can't reveal until certain moments come along. And when Negative 48 came out, we felt this now was the time to speak to the whole truth of Freemasons. Now, the reason for this, trepidatious nature is simply because the hate for the Freemasons is overwhelming. So let me start the show with this comment, and this is absolutely true. What we're dealing with today, and I apologize because I could have made that part clearer to you way back when we were, decoding movies like Hot Fuzz. And when we were going through all that, we could have revealed to you. So what we want to share is this: when you see in the record industry, when you see in Hollywood, and you see these freaking clowns doing things like the third eye symbol, or they're doing the 666 symbol, and all of these little things. And Jay-Z talks about that he's Illuminati and that he's a Freemason, and a lot of them are very proud to they're not. They're not in the true sense of this brilliant organization. They don't know anything. The cabal created long ago. They knew that they needed minions, and for their minions, they've created a fake line of Freemasonry. And that's essentially what we're dealing with now. And it's just evil, demonic people who have a certain moral canvas, which is that for the right gift, for the right payment, they're prepared to sell anyone and anything down the road, including themselves and their own mothers. So
that's what the left does, unchecked by the beautiful right.
So when we talk about hospitals being run by a Freemason administrator, that's true, but it's not true of true Freemasons. This is the fake Freemasonry that we're now explaining to you. So Jay-Z is not a Freemason. Jay-Z is a fake Freemason. Everything in their creation, their world, is a lie. So that's what you're dealing with. You're talking about a fake occulted world that's out there. And then this is where Aleister Crowley and others of that ilk have come out, Madame Blavatsky and others. Their job has been to give just sort of along the lines of what we've experienced, just a little bit of truth, and then the rest is lies, and you never know what is the truth and what is a lie. They've treated their minions the same way. And so you have these certain characters that look spooky and scary and sort of mystical and guru-ish, and you have them indoctrinate the minions into this Freemasonry. And it's not Freemasonry. And of course it can't be, because Freemasonry is divine. And we're going to get into that in full force in just a sec here. So that's what I wanted to open the show to everyone with. So when we talk that Freemasons are completely capitulated and that they're all evil now, this just isn't the case. It isn't the case. There were some Freemasons in the beginning that, for whatever reason, likely fear, they did capitulate and work with Adam Weishaupt. So let me make this clear again. I said it in the show the other night, and I'll repeat it again now. Not only did Adam Weishaupt create the original articles for the creation of the Bavarian Order of the Illuminati in 1776, he's also responsible for creating this order, Society of Jesus, known as the Order of the Jesuits. So the Jesuits have always been around, but they haven't existed in the name of the Jesuits. The Jesuit creation is just giving this thuggery group, this evil, monstrous thuggery group within the Catholic Church, a specific name, and then a specific earth-wide responsibility. And so much of the Jesuits' responsibility has been controlling information, and then what information is given out. So therefore, the Jesuits are tied to the hip to Hollywood. They're tied with the record industry. They're tied into all forms of entertainment. So therefore, the Jesuits are tied into professional sports, and you just can't imagine how demonic professional sports has grown into and what it is now. It's absolutely awful. I mean, you have an entire league like the National Basketball Association that literally has been hijacked and has just become, a front for the most horrific demonic practices. I mean, this stuff is incredible, but that's the sickness and the disease, the virus that is the Jesuits. The Society of Jesus, which is the order of the Jesuits. Very, very evil. And then Adam Weishaupt is also responsible for creating communism. Now, that was laid at the doorstep of Karl Marx, and Karl Marx is just another one of these pseudonyms, just like, Vladimir Lenin, and just to make them sound Russian, but they weren't. They're Zionists, they're fake Jews that were made to sound Russian so they'd be accepted as these leaders. And Trotsky, all of them are that initial group, Stalin as well. They're all part of.
So they disguised themselves. They were the wolves in sheep's clothing.
That's right. Yeah. And Lenin's job was to indoctrinate through advertising and marketing, the marketing genius Lenin, to market communism to the world, and of course, obviously to his own people. So Adam Weishaupt was also responsible for the creation of communism that was laid at the doorstep of Karl Marx, but which is Rabbi Mordecai Levi. Rabbi Mordecai Levi is Karl Marx. And so you get the picture, don't you, that nobody is who they say they are. And that when you go back and look at these names, they're these Zionist names, and the Zionists are the fake Jews, not real Jews.
So the protocol of the art of war has been playing out before our very eyes since the beginning of time, and we had no idea. We were asleep to it all, just the way they wanted us.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see whomever put Adam Weishaupt up to all of this is doing so because there is a singular narrative that is interlaced with one another. So now this is the next thing for everyone to pay attention, really listen to, and to consider that what we're looking at here are these three evil pathways are all connected to one another, and they all move forward through organized society, but in particular through organized religion, okay? So along comes the Illuminati, and the Illuminati are playing themselves out profoundly in all aspects of society, but most profoundly through organized religion, most profoundly through Western Catholicism, Roman Catholicism. Anytime you hear the name Roman, it's just that same group of Zionists that slaughtered Joshua, Jehoshua, Jesus Christ, and
that was their choice of a Trojan horse.
Yeah. So they've always been there, and they've always used Roman in some variation of their incarnation, but it's the same thing. So this narrative about the Roman Empire never was like it was, and this narrative that it became really decadent and that it sort of collapsed in on itself, and then some of these marauding tribes from the north, like the Germanic tribes, eventually defeated them in a major pitched battle, and then Rome just sort of fell apart, and out of the ashes just came the church because, they had to, because, there was no authority, and the church came, and then that became the Dark Ages. Bullshit. All these fake Jews do is put on, when their product becomes, when they get revealed, like what they were doing to the Christians, because what Jehoshua and Mary did and stood for is purely genius and beautiful and righteous. It inspired millions of people to say, that's what I believe in. That's what I want to be part of. I want to know why they killed him. I want to know what he taught. I want that. And so this is where Constantine suddenly portrays himself as a righteous man, and that yes, I believe we should embrace the teachings of this Jesus figure. And then the history books after that, Constantine's trying to portray himself essentially as Jesus himself, and it's just incredible. So when they get found out, and when their little bullshit game starts to fall apart, then they change and they write the history book. So they get away with murder, literally, and they get away with changing the history book. So then there's this narrative. It's all bullshit. It's complete bullshit. So the Roman Catholic Church, these pious men wearing, robes and dresses, are the same people who were the Romans, who are the same people that came before. These are the Canaanites. And that's what Cain always had to do, was to hide himself, because he was disgustingly greedy, violent, and lustful, and he stood out like a sore thumb amongst the children, amongst the bloodline of Abel. He stood out like a sore thumb. So they have to disguise themselves. That's why they needed to create cities, large amounts of people, so they could go and not be so noticeable going through these towns. So thank you for listening to all of that. And these are very important things to consider as we begin here. So who are the Freemasons? The Freemasons, they are based on the word, and the word is free mason. So a mason is a builder. Now, first thing that we need to talk about here about the title or the word mason, and that we just said that they're builders, is that they had to be. They had to be. This is precisely why in The Lord of the Rings and the creation of Middle-earth, Professor Tolkien created this super race of humans called the New Man or Ions, Numenorians. And new man is the resurrected man. So that's Jesus Christ. And or is gold. And we are all the golden children. So Numenorians is Professor Tolkien in plain sight saying that this is a Christ-like race. And what does Tolkien say about the Numenorians in Middle-earth? They became the builders, the architects of the bones of Middle-earth. So when we get to The Hobbit, when we get to The Lord of the Rings, thousands and thousands of years later, and we see things like the Argonath, or where the Fellowship splits up, and Frodo's walking in the forest alone until Boromir confronts him, and you see a gigantic head of a king just lying there on the side. These are the works of ascended masters. Now, when you look at things like the Argonath and how perfect they are and the size of them, what's Tolkien saying? That's like the pyramids, isn't it? The Argonath, Minas Tirith is like Osgiliath. These creations are so impossible, are so impossibly brilliant, that the inference can't be missed that he's essentially, Tolkien is making reference to our ancients and the pyramids and all these other incredible creations that we still have no idea physically how to do. And that's what Tolkien is saying, is that these ascended masters, these higher men who are the regenerated, resurrected men who are Christ-like, are the ones that built the bones of Middle-earth. And that's welcome to this podcast tonight. And we're in it 100% now. Welcome to the Freemasons. Now, they had to be the builders. They are the architects and builders proudly, as anyone should be. When you have a hand in this creation through the elements that God provides us, you're a co-creator. It's really kind of magical. It really is kind of a magical process. And the Masons knew that they had to be the builders, because if they weren't, then the Canaanites, who aren't really good at anything except murder and theft and perverting the truth, lying, that's what they're good at, then they would have to be responsible for building things, and then it would be awful. It would look ugly and it would be awful. So the backbone of society, the backbone of our history and who we are has been done by this group, proudly, and they're the Masons. Now, they're Freemasons. Now, that's very powerful because freedom is why we exist. That's what William Wallace existed to teach us, is that if there is no freedom, you don't have a life. And so giving your life in the name of freedom, the cost of freedom is your physical life. Because if you don't have it, you're not living, you're just dying. And you're just waiting you're just holding out for maybe a better time and a better place to die. But you're going to die, and you're going to die alone and in pain, because freedom is this full expression of God and the Christed energy. The whole purpose of everything is to raise Christ within you to God, 7 to the 9, and Christ consciousness to God consciousness. That is the elixir of life. So Freemasons are not just Masons who built this earth like the Numenorians. They are, but that's not, that was their day job. I always say that to Colleen, is that's the Masons' day job. Now, what's their night gig? They're alchemists. Of course they are, because alchemy is knowing Santa Claus. And who lives right next door to Santa Claus inside of our head? God, in the mercy seat. God, that's why I always greet with you and tease you a little bit with the creation of this character of Al the chemist. Alchemy, Santa Claus is alchemy. The claustrum, the sacred sainted claustrum, Saint Claustrum is Santa Claus. Just talking about your claustrum. Right here, the very back crown of your head, at the very back, high up, right at the top of a chimney. Seriously, yeah, there's a chimney inside your head. And at the very top of the chimney, at the back crown of your head, which is your real crown, by the way, only an egomaniac wears a crown here, like the Queen of England. A real king is a knight. I'll get into that. The word itself tells you this. So if you just break it down, you'll see what a knight spells. And so a real king is he who wears a crown that is illuminated. So there's no physicality to that crown. It is illumination by being humble and penitent before God. So when you're humble and penitent before God, how does this become the high point, the highest high? This is your highest high. This is the high point within you. And how does that become the highest high? Because what is a penitent or humble man before God? He's kneeling before God. Because, and that's why I always share with you, we do not kneel to any man. We kneel only to God and God's Son, which is the Son of Man, Jesus Christ. And the first thing that Jesus Christ would tell us if we kneel to him is get off your knees. Get off your knees and rise with me. And then when you know these truths, then you are, of course, you are humbled, just like Colleen and I, humbled beyond description, into tears all the time, because of how incredible all of this is, because of how miraculous all of this is, God's creation, how much he loves us. So that is a humble penitent man, and that is the real crown. And the first thing that you find in this chimney that runs all the way to the claustrum at the back, very back, on just to the right side of the continental divide, the horizontal divide of the brain, just to the right is the claustrum. And just at the very top of this chimney or tube for a man, that's what it's called. Go into any medical encyclopedia, dictionary, Gray's Anatomy, and once again, you'll see it again, running to the back crown. There is a tube inside of us, and it is called the foramen. For a man. For a man. For a man. This is the passageway. Because Santa is the creator of milk and honey. Milk and honey are the fertilizer that fertilize the psychophysical seed that creates baby Jesus within us. This is how chrism oil, which is Jesus Christ within us, which is this Christ consciousness within us that must rise within us. This is where it all starts. It starts at the highest high. So these are Freemasons. These are these people that are building all of the structures, and why these structures look a certain way. Like Washington, D.C. is creating this all-seeing eye, which is creating this white owl who sees all, and of course it's purely evil. And of course it's not, because the white is pure and the owl is a genius because it sees light in the darkness. It has vision where others cannot see. It sees through the darkness. So we always have exalted the owl for their ability to see light in the darkness, to have sight in darkness, which is illumination. You have to become the light of the world. You must be able to create the light to be able to see in the darkness. And this is why we all teach to you all the time that you have to become the lighthouse. And you literally do, because that optic thalamus here in the third ventricle of the brain has to become lit, illuminated. That's what the pineal gland does, that portal to God. And that's the baptism of fire. And the fire catches the oil, and the oil begins to burn. So that's why we always ask you, do you have oil in your lamp? That's why the Bible asks you and teaches you, do you have oil in your lamp? What's the oil? Jesus Christ. The chrism oil. So these are the Freemasons. Their night job are alchemists who know these highest truths, what the Bible truly teaches, and their sole job is to keep this truth alive in all aspects of society, especially within the architecture. So then that means we have to stand back in awe of the Freemasons, because this is a group of enlightened men and women, by the way, enlightened mankind that was encoding God into all their creations. And so now when you start to look at this with Freemasonry, this is why you see when you get to the founding fathers of the United States of America, which was meant to become the new Atlantis. Remember, their plan, the plan of the true Freemasons, is the New World Order. See, the Cabal, they don't make up anything. They're the left brain. They have no ability to create. They steal. So they stole the Freemason plan of the New World Order in America, and they targeted America first to dumb down America. What was the plan of Freemasonry? Which is to illuminate America. And America would be the light of the world, where everyone took a pilgrimage to. And then you had all of these enlightened leaders, and therefore an enlightened culture, and then it shone brightly for the rest of the world to see and emulate. So this is who the Freemasons are. And so this is why the founding fathers like George Washington, first president of the United States, had to be Freemasons, because this is the only place during the Babylonian captivity of the last, approximately 6,000 years. It's about 5,500 years that we've lived in this maritime admiralty law system and the Babylonian captivity of those who are of Cain, the Canaanites, the left brain. So they're the ones that have kept this sacred truth alive. Okay, so here's the next massive thing to know, is that the Freemasons have had to adapt themselves as we have changed. So as we have changed, so have they have changed. And so nowadays, Freemasons participate in business, and Freemasons wear suits and ties, because that's sort of the order of the day. And this is how they don't look conspicuous. They don't look conspicuous to the Cabal or necessarily to anyone. They're just fitting in, as they always have. So what were they then? What were they before this modern era of these Freemasons. And there is no doubt that the research, if you do it yourself, overwhelmingly shows you that they're the Knights Templar. And you have to love the balls of these effing liars in the Catholic Church, because if you go to Wikipedia, for example, and you just type in, Knights Templar, and what's the origin of Knights Templar? Well, it's 13th century, 1200 and something. And yeah, that's an arm of the Catholic Church. Oh, boy, you got to love the balls that these people have and how big of lies that they'll tell. Like the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar existed because of the Catholic Church, because of these Romans, because of these Zionists, because of these fake Jews. This is why they have to exist. Now, what is the sworn oath of Freemasons? What is the sworn oath? Now, we're talking about real Freemasonry, not the stuff that is going on now that is being orchestrated and run by the cabal. This is not Freemasonry. So again, let's drive that point home. So the oath in real Freemasonry is the same oath as the Knights Templar. Now, what was the oath of the Knights Templar? And who did the Knights Templar see themselves as? They are this order of poor fellow soldiers of Jesus Christ and protection of Solomon's temple. Now, those of you who've been with us for quite a while, you know this is the basis to what we teach you. Solomon's temple, and that's why they're alchemists. You know this to be true. You know, because the protection of Solomon's temple is the highest of highs, the holiest of holies, which is this part of you, the 1111, 1111, KK, master number 11, 11. These are your two temples. These are your two temples. This is Solomon's temple. And the Ark of the Covenant, or Noah's Ark, is the same metaphor, and that is found right here in the third ventricle of your brain. And this also makes up the Holy Grail and the Chalice of Christ. So when you look at pictures and images of Horus, for example, in Egypt theology, and you look into Horus, then that is the bird head of God. And Horus is often depicted looking like a bird in his head, and he looks like a falcon. And the reason is that if you take a look at us removing the outer cover, removing the skull and the skin, and you look inwards at a half section, a cross section of what's in us from the side, what you will see is the bird head of God, Horus, and it looks like a falcon. And the hypothalamus looks like the beak, and the optic thalamus is the head, and the pineal gland, pituitary gland are there as well. Then the brain stem, because of the way the brain stem is structured and how it is not consistent in its thickness, the brain stem looks like the body of the bird. And then here at Atlas, which is this, and here, of course, is the blood-brain barrier right here, but this is Atlas, which is separating the end of the temple of the body to the temple of the mind. Then Atlas works as bottom of the chalice. So this is that wide, round portion that stabilizes a glass, or stabilizes a wine glass, or a chalice. The stem is your brain stem, and the goblet, Harry Potter and the goblet of fire, having to go into Solomon's temple and baptism of fire. That's where it all comes from. And the goblet is the third ventricle of your brain, located in between Solomon's temples, your two temples. And that is also the location of the Ark of the Covenant. So this is incredible stuff. So when you look at this cross section of the inside of the head, then you see this all-seeing eye. You see the bird head of God. You see the falcon within us, and you see the cup of Christ within us, the chalice of Christ within us. You see the Ark of the Covenant within us. And this is why I don't want any of you to fall, because there's some people out there that right now are attempting to say that the Cabal and the Jesuits made up everything, and that Jesus Christ is not real, and that this has all just been made up and we've been all taken for a ride. No, 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 no. And how can we absolutely prove that? Obviously, we just showed you with human physiology. But of course, this is what the night sky, God's blackboard, that is the original teaching device. That's a blackboard up in the sky. Yep, you can call it that. That's what it is. God's blackboard, which is the night sky, teaches Christianity, teaches God, Sacred Mother, and it teaches Jesus Christ. So there are people lately new to our work that are sort of rallying on us because it's like, no, you don't elevate the sacred feminine. And that's what the Cabal do, and this is all about Ishtar, Semiramis, and this is very evil stuff, Charlie. It just shows us that you're demonic. And it's like, no, because your God created the night sky, and your God created the night sky to teach one story. So this is where when people say, Charlie, I like you, but my God, that massive ego that you that you possess, because it has to be your way or the highway. No, it's not Charlie's way at all. Colleen and I don't have a way outside of God through Jesus Christ. We don't have a way, because that's the only way. So when I'm stubborn in the face that we have to tell the truth in every single moment, that's because there's one story. That's because there's one truth. And if you want to fight against this and say this sparkly New Age, which was financed, by the way, by the Rothschilds, the New Age spiritualist group that developed, out of the 60s, because you gotta nip that in the bud in a hurry. This burgeoning New Age spiritualism is all based on, again, just a massive series of lies, and they're designed to take you away from telling the truth in all moments. And then it's just, they paint Jesus, and Jesus wasn't strong, and Jesus wasn't the truth or anything. He was just a really nice guy. He loved everyone. He went around hugging everyone and stuff. And then you just have this brand new story about Jesus that's not there in the Bible. It's not there in the night sky, and it's not there in the Bible. So the night sky, which is astrology, not astronomy, has just constantly got this rap that this is devil worship. If you play around with astrology, and yet right at the beginning of Genesis, what does the Bible say? That God created the night sky and created the firmament and created the stars so that they could be there for signs. And then mentions, Orion, the three kings of Orion's belt, and the Pleiades. And so, yeah.
Now in the chat, a lot of people are just being awesome. And there's a few that are asking for proof. So when we say look in the night sky, or do your work, do the research, when you do begin to do your own research and you do begin to discover truths for yourself, which obviously in many cases people are in a certain frequency, it's a beta wave, and they are unable to get past the fear and the doubt. And when you're in that frequency, truth is just going to fly over top of you. You're not going to be able to hear it when you see it. You're going to doubt everything that everyone says because you need solid proof. And what I'm saying to you, what we're saying to you, is that you need to do the work yourself. Come to those conclusions yourself. No matter what we say, you're not going to believe it anyway. So honestly, you just need to go and do your own research. Find the answers for yourself. You're obviously not going to find them here. So with that being said.
Well, what we always do is teach you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And what I always do is prove it to you without, facts, figures, and logic. I don't try to prove it to you through their bullshit system of the left brain and bibliographies and footnotes.
Our
and
whole entire life has been built on lies.
Exactly.
So where would you like us to go for a bibliography?
Yeah.
To all of the lies that have been put out there and all of the books and all of the.
So the truth, the proof, and the proof of this truth is your human physiology. And one of the things that I've painstakingly done without sleep, over the last 3 years, is to be able to create so many high-res images of the brain and to be able to properly label for you, because so much of the brain is improperly labeled. And I defy you to find any image anywhere on the internet that correctly shows you the location of the claustrum. Now, how can that be? How can that be? Nobody denies that each of us possess the cloister, which means closet, by the way. When you go in, when you pray, go into the closet and shut thy door. Cloister, closet, claustrum, sainted, sacred, because it's sacred, sainted claustrum, Santa Claus. Nobody denies we have it, but they just can't seem to put it in the right location. A lot of them, they put it here. I've seen some that mistake it for like the third eye and stuff and whatnot. Once again, it is almost straight upon the divide. It's just to the right, and it is at the crown of the background, the real crown, because this is where you create your halo. This is where your halo shines when you are penitent and humble before God. And then that becomes the highest high, because you kneel before God in deference to God, who is the creator. Why are you fighting this? Why are you challenging any of this? He's the creator. Would you not want to take his thought in every single moment? Jesus' biggest teachings of Jesus Christ in the Bible are take no thought for your life. He says it again and again and again and makes allegories about it again and again and again. Take no thought for your life. How did Jesus feed the multitudes with just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish? It's not 5 loaves of bread and it's 2 fish. It is the mastery, the bread is the mastery over the 5 physical senses through this manna gift from God in heaven. Manna is not bread. Manna is what God is, which is pure consciousness. So it's pure conscious thought. It's perfect thought. And we can be filled. Colleen knows this because she experiences it too. And she knows that this is what I'm like. I can go for a long periods of time without eating, because you just become so absorbed in this miracle that is God's creation. It is a miracle. And you're so passionate and excited about this, you forget about everything else. And when this perpetuates always, then you're not eating. Makes the transition to become a breatharian so much easier, because you're not focused on food. Why do most people?
And we're not saying becoming a breatharian in
No,
1 or 2 months or
no,
years or
no,
whatever.
no.
This is a transition.
Yeah, long
So
transition.
we don't even know. I mean, and each person is a different story. So we're not sharing that this is something that you do overnight.
But this is common sense, isn't it? Once again, Charlie teaches common sense, and this is common sense, that when you become passionate in your life, when you have passion, then you're not bored. Why do most people eat? Because they're bored. Why do most people smoke? Because
for emotional reasons, comfort.
They're right, but for a lot of people, it's boredom. This is why they then have so many psychological problems and issues, because they're empty inside. Boredom is being empty. You don't know what to do because you don't know anything.
Or distraction.
Yeah, or being distracted away, for sure. So this process of just learning this truth, and that's why we're saying, guaranteed moving forward, we're going to rise above everything. Even if there's an attempt at a zombie apocalypse, we'll rise above, because where we're headed is this bliss. And what the bliss is, that in the video that I put up, a 10-minute video with George Harrison, the interview is George Harrison, and the guys, the interviewer saying, so Joe, you sort of meaning like, bliss when you're playing with the Beatles. And he's going, well, I guess we were happy once or twice. But he said, no, I'm talking about when every atom within you is fully activated and you're buzzing, you're flying. And this is the bliss. And this is what it's all about. And this is what this attainment is. And so this bliss is what Colleen and I receive by being completely humble before God and taking no thought before God and just allowing God to be able to show us the way. And he does that through the Son of Man, which is Jesus Christ, because we do everything in our life, just as Justin is doing, just as Eugene is doing. We do everything in our life to raise Christ within us, which is Christ consciousness, which literally is your chrism oil produced 13 times a year from the age of 12 onwards. Chrism oil. Yeah, it's all real. It's all real. This doesn't sound real, or it doesn't, you haven't heard of it because they don't teach the truth. They only teach the lie. So like, think of Harry Potter. This is in the second of the two part 7 movies, the ending of the story. And Harry walks, because Harry finds out that he must die of this physical to be able to rise to heaven at the right-hand side of God. And so Harry boldly, bravely goes where no man has gone before, which is to face his inner self, the evil inner self, which is the Lord Voldemort that we all possess inside, and especially when we take thought for ourselves. So don't take thought for yourself. So Harry Potter, Harry is Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Harry is Hare. Hare. So when you're saying Harry Potter, you're saying Hare Potter. And what is a potter? He who creates temples earns temples with his hands. Harry Potter is Jesus Christ. And the symbology is everywhere in those movies. Every single book, every single movie, every scene is powerfully showing you. And the reason that Harry looks the way he looks and has those glasses, and the way that Harry started relatively, say, slow as a brilliant wizard within Hogwarts, is that they're trying beautifully. So this is not a Cabalistic book, and it's not a Cabalistic production, because they would never ever show you this, because theirs is elitism. So Jesus is part of this elite club, and he's a good-looking guy, and he only dates really hot chicks because Jesus is super, super hot and so far apart from us. What they showed you with Harry Potter is he's a normal kid. And the reason is because Harry Potter is showing you the truth. That's why Frodo and Sam are the ones that have to destroy the ring. They're the ones that have to go to Mordor. What are hobbits in terms of Tolkien's creation of Middle-earth? They're the smallest, most overlooked and most misunderstood of all of God's creations in Middle-earth. And the smallest showed us the way.
Now think about that Harry Potter, when you look at his character, there's good wizards and bad wizards in this show, and you will discover them as you go along. But Harry Potter, if you take a look at his character, he's a beautiful, and you see him grow, and you see him come into his true power, and he's always got love and family at the center of his heart, and he's always looking to be altruistic, always, even though he gets himself into tons of trouble. But I mean, that's what we do in this upside down world as we're trying to navigate this straight and narrow. We're always coming up against, the dark side. So you're going to be in some really awful predicaments at times, but you have to right the wrong. You have to right the ship. So that's what we're all doing. But back to Harry Potter. When you watch this show, you can see all of the beautiful comms that are in there about how we are exactly like this. We are the light wizards, and we're magic. We are absolutely magic. And Jesus said, we will do greater things than these. But yet, religion will tell you that's evil. That's Satan.
Don't you dare say that. We'll cast stones at you outside in the parking lot.
So look at the incredible things that Jesus did in the Bible, and holy cow, he says, you will do greater things than this. Like, this always stood out to me like it was the most amazing news I'd ever heard. And I looked around at people when the minister, the priest, was talking about this, and I just was looking into their eyes, and it wasn't registering at all. And I guess I was new to religion when I came into this and heard this story, and I was just like, we're going to do greater things than this? Like, why aren't we all so excited? And shouldn't we be examining this, what it is we should be doing? But everyone who's too.
But religion is there to tell you that's not what Jesus meant.
That's right. So then I discovered really quickly that people didn't believe in magic. They didn't believe in what Jesus was really saying. So, and I'm sure many of you have felt the same way, and religion put the damper on it really, really quickly. And then the people around you, they're so afraid that they begin to squelch all of that thought of being more magic than Jesus was presenting himself to be in the Bible. It's like, wow. So yeah, Harry Potter, his character is not a bad black wizard at all. But he's showing you that he has to overcome, which, as Charlie said before, it's the right and the left hemisphere of the brain. And Harry Potter is the right side, and Voldemort is his ego. So we all have to overcome our ego. And
so we have to walk into the forbidden forest, right? So the forbidden forest is that where God said we shouldn't go in the Garden of Eden. So then that would be walking. So what are they saying in plain sight? If that's the forbidden forest, then that's the western portion of the Garden of Eden, which housed a tree, which was known as the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And good and evil is duality. So that's your left brain. And then this is the materialistic plane that we all find ourselves because we didn't listen to God and stay in singularity and perfection in the right hemisphere of the brain, and only ate 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread every day. And the 5 loaves of bread is just manna from heaven, thought from God. And the 2 fish is the wisdom by casting our net to the right. Pisces, because Pisces is right next to Aries, which is the goal of everything, which is to pass over, transcend death by passing you over because you've done the work by becoming the alkaline man. So this is what we're talking about. This is what we're dealing with. This magical stuff, and this is all about Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings, and the symbology is everywhere in these, and of course it's all throughout C.S. Lewis, the Chronicles of Narnia. It's the one story, and these geniuses are just playing it out in these various allegories that they're writing to retell the Bible in a way that's going to attract. And Professor Tolkien, the likes of Lewis and Tolkien and whomever else, they're doing this for the glory of God, not for their personal glorification at all. And so it's incredible. So what I was saying, where I was just quickly going this before we just get back to the Knights Templar, is this: when Harry walked into the Forbidden Forest, because you have to go back where the mistake was made, and then we have to make it right. That's what 107 talks about with the JFK assassination. We have to go back and revisit what took place and have the courage to stare it down. And then we have to have the courage to do something about it, because pestilence will continue. The drought will continue until such time that we address when our divine leaders, the righteous ones amongst us, are taken out, and we don't do anything about it because we're too afraid to do anything about it. People were too overwhelmed with the JFK assassination to do anything. And so the lies just got told bigger and bigger and bigger, and it got worse and worse and worse.
And we find ourselves in the situation that we're in right now, where
Exactly.
we're locked down. The entire world
Yep.
is locked down. Yep. We have to muzzle ourselves to go out and be anywhere. And then our liberties and rights are all taken away from us, but it's okay, because, well, it's dangerous out there, and our health is at risk. So we don't want to endanger anyone else. And, it's the right thing to do. And it happened, people. It's here.
Yeah. I mean, it's just pure insanity. So Harry went back to the starting point. Indigo Montoya and the Princess Bride went back to the starting point. When you get lost, go back to the starting point. Harry went back to the starting point to get this right. And so he went back to the Forbidden Forest, the Western Garden of Eden, and he refused to take thought of his left brain. He refused to defend himself. He refused to do anything to treat with his ego, Lord Voldemort. And then Lord Voldemort, who is the most powerful wizard of all time, winds up and Avada Kedavra, and boom, Harry is sent into another dimension. Was Harry dead? No, because your left brain can't kill you. Your life, it's death. It will die. It only tricks you into thinking that you die again and again and again. And there are literally people that have been here for millions of lifetimes and haven't even had a sniff of deja vu. So
the beast in us is killed, the beast, and we become then the regenerated man.
So do you see the brilliance of this story about Harry Potter, and that when he attempted to kill Harry, who's this pure child, pure righteous child, which by the way is an allegory for harvesting our children, right? Okay. And when the mother stood up and said, no, you're not going to harvest my child, a protective spell was cast, and part of Voldemort's spell cast back on Voldemort. And it latched on to the other part of it, latched on to the closest living thing that could be found, which was baby Harry, because his mother put herself in harm's way and her physical form was destroyed. And so Harry Potter became the Horcrux that Voldemort never intended to create. And so Harry had to die. So you see this perfect allegory of the one story, so that Harry had to die.
Spoiler alert.
Because in that way, Lord Voldemort, which is the ego, will die. And so when Harry gets zapped, Harry reappears in what he seems to think, this world of pure, and it's not white, it's illuminated. It's a translucent illumination. It's not white. It kind of looks white, but it's just illuminated. It's light. It's not white, it's light, which is what melatonin does for you. It doesn't turn your skin white. It turns your skin to what it truly is, which is not material of the material plane. It turns it into light, pure light. And so you begin to glow. And this is when you do begin to glow. And this is
No
what
matter
God,
what level of darkness or lightness your skin is, you are just becoming more light,
Exactly.
more translucent. Doesn't mean you're white skinned.
That's right.
Just translucent. More
That's
of a
right.
beautiful
Mhm.
glow.
And this is
from
how
the
you
inside out.
Yeah, and this is how you get people from Central Asia, the Far East, Africa, different places that have blue eyes. And these are always been known as the Aryans, and because the Aryans have done the work to raise Jesus Christ within them. Christianity is this one story. It is. You can't rail against it. They're lying to you about the fullness and the brilliance of Jesus Christ, but they didn't make up Jesus. They don't make up anything, folks. It's the one story. Trust me, from the beginning, there's been the night sky, and the night sky teaches one story, not a multitude of monotheistic religions, one monotheistic religion.
Now, when you watch Harry Potter, a lot of people are saying that they have never seen it before. They thought it was evil. And I was also told the same thing, but it didn't stop me from watching. And I did watch it, and we've watched it lots and lots and lots, and we've read some of the books. So it's an amazing story. And when you get past the fact that we've been lied to about so many things, including probably who wrote these stories, and who put them out. But when you watch them, when you see Ron, Hermione, and Harry Potter, it's the Holy Trinity right there. So it's amazing. And Dumbledore, of course, represents, just pick out the characters and then you can begin to put them in the place of the one story. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. And it's all about family, and it's all about growth and learning and regenerating.
And that we need one another. And so the whole point of Ron, like Hermione is genius, but she's that thinking left brain. So Hermione desperately needs Harry Potter because Harry is the right brain. Harry balances the genius that's Hermione. Without Harry, Hermione would go too far to the left. And she, like, just look at times when Hermione is very critical of certain classes, like, the prophecy class and whatnot. And this is a joke and a waste of time because it's right brain stuff. And Hermione is firmly fixated within that facts, figures, and logic left brain. So she just needs balance. And this is why you have to become Jesus Christ within you, and you have to raise yourself, because it's the only way to save the left brain. This only way to save Hermione is by being Pottered. You have to do the work, and then the left brain you will win it over, because it just sees your purity and you will win it over. So you have to do the work. That's what these allegories are about. So when Harry goes to the Forbidden Forest and Voldemort, the most powerful wizard ever, zaps him, and this is it, the death curse. And Harry wakens within this translucent hall, cave, and Dumbledore says, "Yeah, so this is your party, Harry. So where would you say we are?" "Well, sir, it looks like King's Cross Station, only cleaner, full of light instead of grit and grind." And King's Cross Station, King's Cross, you get it? King's Cross Station.
Whomever wrote this story, they were read in, they knew the one story, they knew the truth, they had the gnosis of this whole thing. So whether they were, whether they're white hats or dark hats, regardless, again, it's all one story. It's just they take the dark and they put it at the top. But in this story, good wins. So it's really hard to imagine the dark hats always putting out stuff.
That's right. And clearly they haven't. So we're going to get into this as we progress tonight. But again, like we recommended to you last night or the other night, was that we're going to have to take a hard look now at like the movies National Treasure and National Treasure Book of Secrets, which we did last night. And then it's just over. It's just overwhelming. It's just over. I haven't seen them in a number of years, but I was always gravitated to those movies that I knew that they were important. And then as you just become dedicated to this work and you're doing all of these things and stuff, you become disassociated, and then you sort of look at it, well, they're just leading us down a false path and stuff. No, I went back through it last night and looking at National Treasure 1, and the comms are all there. So again, the entire plot of that first movie is essentially the plot of Freemasons. So what are they saying through this family of the Gates family? And the Gates were Thomas Gates was a stable hand. So this is of common lineage. So with the Gates family, they are the protector of the gate to heaven, heaven's gate. And that is, accessing into the third ventricle of the brain. So that's what the Freemasons do. That's what they've sworn to do. That's what the Knights Templar did. That's what the Gnostic Christians did. That's what the Essenes did. They all swore these oaths to protect Solomon's Temple. Solomon's Temple is this third ventricle of your brain, located between the two temples. Solomon's Temple, your head, your mind, the in between, the very center, innermost part of you, upon the sphenoid bone, which is flat Earth, and this is the dome. That is all happening in real time, and all of these groups have sworn to protect Jesus Christ and Solomon's Temple. That's the one story. I'm sorry, we've looked at every single religion in detail after detail after detail. Zoroaster and Zoroastrianism does it better than any other, because there's no one befuddling it and twisting it, because this is first that we know of. This is the first sort of text that was just pure consciousness decoding the night sky. So there's no bullshit in it. There's no people hacking it into pieces and stuff. It's just pure enlightenment, because that's all Zoroaster did, is he decoded the night sky. So it's the one story. Zarathustra is just another term or variation for Jesus Christ.
So when you say decoding the night sky, what do you mean?
So the night sky is an allegory. It's a story. And of course, the sun and the moon are the main characters within the sky. And then, of course, our movements and our creation, we find that we become the main character to astrology here on Earth, and that it's all happening for us. But when you first discover astrology, you see that the key players are the sun and the moon. The sun is God, the representation, the allegory. The sun is God, and the moon is the mother. And so what have we been teaching you for 3 years? they love each other so much. They are opposites to one another because this is the duality of this materialistic plane.
I'm going to say something really quick. Q26 174 Anthony is just saying that his, I believe, daughter is having a baby and the baby's in the birth canal. So at this very moment, when the baby is born onto this world, there's energies from the stars. This one story has energies coming out. Certain stars are aligning in certain places. Wherever,
everything is in alignment always.
Wherever,
so it's a snapshot in the moment.
Right. So wherever this event is taking place, those energies are going to be stronger or less stronger, depending on where
more
Mars,
more Mars, less Venus, or more Venus, less Mars.
So the moment that this baby is presented into this world from the mother into this beautiful ether here, there's going to be, like Charlie says, a snapshot. Boom. This baby's going to have all of these beautiful characteristics from this born moment. Wow. And like, how exciting is that? And how magical is that?
And there's no alignment that is better than another. They're all completely unique. So you're always unique. And remember, it's not a birthing canal. You're not a commodity for a mercantilist system. It's a born canal. You're born. You're not birthed. You're not a ship. So we shouldn't be using words like like birthing when this is borning. So but getting back to that story, just to show this, because I want to tie in the Freemasons to the Knights Templar. So just going back to Harry Potter. So Harry realizes and voluntarily walks into the Forbidden Forest, and he realizes that he must allow Voldemort to kill him, and because Harry's a novice in this process, but he has faith. Harry completely trusts Dumbledore. Dumbledore is clearly being represented as this spiritus of God, because that's who comes to Harry in Heaven Upon Earth, King's Cross Station. X marks the spot with the treasures, third ventricle of the brain. I mean, wow, it's brilliant stuff. So, and Harry eventually says to and here's another key point, because they're telling you the truth. This is so whoever's behind this, they're telling you the truth, and you better read those books and watch those movies. The movies are so well done, by the way. I mean, they really, really are. And Harry says, so what, Professor? I have a choice? I don't have to come back? No, it's entirely up to you. The choice is always yours, because singularity with God is eternal gnosis, is eternal wisdom. It's your choice if you want to come back into the carnal realm. But your karma determines, or your dharma determines, how and when and where you come back. So he
bodhisattva.
So he bodhisattva. So Dumbledore said, a train station, you say. I would imagine that you could board a train from here and go to the next destination. Here, where would I go? And Dumbledore says, on, because there's no end and there's no limit to anything. God's creation is abundant. So the best way to express, well, where could I go to, is on, because that's what's coming to all of us, is on. We're going to be switched on, and then it's just pure genius. It's just pure joy. It's just pure enlightenment. It's just pure abundance. It's all that's waiting for us. It's only the hands of man that give you lack. There is no lack with the mother. There is no lack with the father. So at the end of it, Harry says to Dumbledore, he said, Professor, is all of this real? Or is this just happening inside my head? And then Dumbledore says to Harry, of course it's real, Harry. Why should that mean that it's not happening inside your head? And you see, the reason that they do this is to powerfully drive home the narrative that you've been lied to. You've been lied to. You've been told that the only thing that's real is this physical form that you can get a cut and die from. That's pretty ridiculous. So this physical form is the illusion, the delusion. What's in your mind, what's in between your two temples, Solomon's temple, that's what's real. That's what's eternal. That's the bliss when you go within yourself. And this is what all of these incarnations of the Masons have always sworn to do. And they're swearing two things. One, that they will protect the truth of Jesus Christ and his bloodline. And two, Solomon's temple. Solomon's temple is here. So when they say that, that means that they're going to protect these sacred teachings that we've been sharing with you. And that's,
yes, Karen, that's why these are called temples.
yes.
It's truth in plain sight our whole lives.
Yes. And that's why your temples look like a 1 and a 1, and 2 1s is 11. And that's why the letter K is the number 11, and that's why the number 11 is the Mastar number.
And if all of this seems like we're talking another language, you just go back and listen to a lot of the podcasts that Charlie's done.
And of course, and the book that is being written and will be done sooner than later, and then that is the one story. So you know,
it'll explain so much.
It's a manual. It's a manual that eventually everyone will just need to get, and because it empowers you. The book teaches you what everything means, what everything in its perfect form, God's form, in its perfect form, what it means. So the alphabet is the basis to all things. And this is where numerology comes from. Numerology isn't the be all and end all. The numerology is the product, the teaching tool of the creation, which is the one story. And the one story plays itself out as an act by actors upon a stage. So you need a script. So the letters A to Z are your script. They make up, those 26 perfect letters make up every single word ever created, and it's all created by God. So there's no evil words, there's just misunderstood words or words that we've been lied to about. And this is what the Cabal does. They just lie because they don't create. God creates. God is the creator. And so the brilliance of Freemasons is that they know that they're co-creators with God, and there's no airs about it. With real Freemasons, there's no airs about this. They're not saying that they're better than God or that what they're trying to do is replace God. No. They glory God. And in the movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage, this is and then his father, which is played by John Voight, Angelina Jolie's father. This is what you're seeing with the two gates. You're seeing these gatekeepers of the truth and of the light. What you're seeing from them is that they are completely humble and penitent before God, and that they're righteous. They're always doing right. So we have to steal the Declaration of Independence because the Canaanites are going to steal it. So we have to preserve it. We have to. And so that's why the allegory within the movie, when he's at the ball and he's trying to get her fingerprints, and he says, so let's drink a toast to all of our founding fathers, because they were committing treason. So if we lost the war, every single one of them would have been rounded up. They would have been tortured with their entrails cut out and then cut up into pieces and set at the four corners of the United States. And this is what was waiting for anyone who were committing this treason to King George, who put himself above God. Canaanite, left brain, Cabal, King George, Cabal, okay? And they were protecting a treasure. Treasure's real. Treasure's real. The treasure is this hidden past. That's real, but it's been hidden from us by the Cabal. And so therefore, the sacred task of the Knights Templar, and this is why. So, okay, thank you for allowing our segue into Harry Potter. It's brilliant, genius. Don't let anyone tell you it's not. When we're allowed to, we'll be able to decode all of the Harry Potter movies and books. Because
our goal is that we could show clips,
yes,
and then we could talk about it. It would be brilliant. We can't do that right now because YouTube would shut us down.
Yeah.
So when that platform comes up, we're so excited to share all of that with you.
Thank you, sweet pie. So just to get back to this now. So thank you for the segue to Harry. And now, where did the Knights Templar go, and why did the Knights Templar eventually have to morph themselves into the Freemasons? Because so what we're saying is that there's the Essenes, there's the Gnostics, there's the Knights Templar, and there's the Freemasons, and that each came along at a certain point because that's where mankind was at. And so they looked the way that enlightened people would look during those times. And so they've taken different shapes and forms to be able to not necessarily be seen by the cabal, because once you present yourself as the shining light, then the cabal notices you in a hurry and they take you out in a hurry. And that's what happened with the Freemasons, because they're builders. And then the cabal recognized what the Masons were building and knew that they could not allow this to continue. So this is where the Freemasons ran into problems. So what happened to the Knights Templar? So the Knights Templar are simply kings. Now, how can I prove this to you, that the Knights Templar were kings? Knights, a real knight is a real king. Let's look at the word. So if you break down the word knight, you have the word king in it. Okay, so it's Knight. I'll just get my little board out here. Always so fun to do.
Wee possums are great. People have been asking. They're
Oh.
amazing. They're just sleeping right now, but I'll bring them out a little later.
Colleen is amazing. They're amazing. Colleen is absolutely amazing. What she does to keep them alive at this point. She is their mother. She's their everything. And you're overworked. You're so overworked, sweetheart. And
they're labor intensive, but it'll just be for a little bit. They'll be great.
Colleen's amazing. So Knights Templar, and a real knight is a real king, not a fake king, not a fake king and queen. These are the real kings, and they wore halos. Now, how do we know this? How can I prove this to you? Just look at the word knight. So what is in the word? There are many words like skin that are in knights, but if you look at it, king is the first four letters. It's just that the N and the I have been replaced. And the reason that the N and I have been replaced is because to become a king, you have to have gnosis. KN is GN. Gnosis is kenosis. Knowledge is gnosis. KN is the same as GN. It's the same thing. KN just simply shows you this is knowledge between your two temples. The letter K is the 11th letter of the alphabet, two temples. Those are your two temples, 9, 11. 9 is God consciousness within you. 11 are your two temples. 9, 11 symbologize to them the taking down of God within us. And so KN is GN. That's gnosis.
The God consciousness between the temples.
So if you look at this, again, then the very first four words of king, of knight, is king. And that the only reason that the N is before the I is because to become a king, you have to first have gnosis. So this is powerfully telling you the truth and what a king's supposed to be, which is an ascended master, right? So these ascended masters who are truly learned in the one story, because there's one truth. Oh, Charlie, yeah, just can't stand your ego because it's your way of the highway. Everybody's got their own truths, Charlie. Why can't you just allow everyone to have the truth? No, there's God's truth, and then everything else is a lie. And that's the problem, is that with this new age spirituality, everyone is a well-meaning Satanist. Yeah, that's right. A well-meaning Satanist. And then you cleverly replace God with the universe, which is cold and unfeeling and uncaring, but it's a miracle. The miracle, and there's aliens and they're going to come say, wow. So this is why it's KN for the knight instead of KING, simply because you have to have gnosis. Okay, now if you take king out of this, right? So there's our king, and And so if you take those letters out, and of course, kings, plural, so we'll take the Kundalini rising, the S, then what's left? What's left? What are the two letters that are left in knight or knights? Knight or knights? H and T. T is the fourfold nature of man, which is our physical form as well. We're a cross. And H is the breath of God. And if you look at those as letters, that's 8, which is a scalar wave, magnetism, which is eternal, which is eternity, the eternal 8, the breath of God. And then the letter T, which S is 19, so T is 20, which is 2. And so this is, okay, H and T. Now, TH, TH is the symbol, the beginning symbols in virtually every language of God. And this is why we study what's called theology or theoism. And so look at all these words that are beginning in TH, and they're all relating to the study of God, to the learning of God. So a knight is he who seeks gnosis, knowledge through God, H and T. King, and what's left over is TH. TH is theology. Theology is the study of God and God's creation. And so that's what a king is. So the Knights Templar are ascended masters. Now, what happened to them? This is really exciting, and I'm absolutely convinced that this is true. There was so much downloading that came to me last night from God to just confirm all the things that were just, I was just, Colleen and I were just, we're like bing, 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 pinballs, and we're just bing, 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 and we're just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Oh my God, yeah. It's not quite as incredible as watching Abraham Lincoln vampires, where for the whole movie, we were just 2 ping pong balls going, I can't believe it. It's the whole truth in plain sight. Oh, God bless you all. And by the way, Adolf Hitler and Abraham Lincoln and Henry Ford, they all show up in the movie National Treasure. Yep, they all do. I'm going to show you how. And then I'm going to do a share screen. I'm going to do a share screen in a second, show you the Cadillac logo, the Cadillac symbol, or the Cadillac logo, which is the third ventrically ring, which is the Chalice of Christ. So, and who everybody was like close friends. So to Henry Ford, his favorite president of all time was Abraham Lincoln. So Henry Ford created a car company that created Ford, Lincoln, Mercury. And Mercury's like the introductory cars. Ford were the middle cars, and then the high line was Lincoln. And then it came to Henry Ford that he needed to have like a super high line, a super divine
Lincoln?
Divine high line. So out of the Lincoln model of cars came Cadillac, and Cadillac is symbolized as like the pinnacle. And of course, your third ventricle is the pinnacle. And so the Cadillac. So I'm going to show you this in a sec here. So, but it all plays out in the movie. So what happened to the Knights Templar if they're there as these knights that are always, and by the way, they show you this in the Indiana Jones movie. Again, they have to, because they don't know how to write anything without taking the one story. They're not creative. The left-brain Spielbergs of the world, they can't create. They don't know how. They're left-brain monsters. They don't know how to create. That's all in your right brain. They won't go near the right brain. So they're giving you powerful truth because they have to. There's no story. It's all the one story. So Indiana Jones, this is why, you see that there is a group of these seemingly Middle Eastern people that are protecting the cup of Christ. And they're literally trying to kill Indiana Jones as Indy trying to find out who abducted his father. And Indy finally says, I'm not looking for the cup of Christ. I'm trying to find my father. Oh, okay. Then your father can be found in a castle on the Austro-Hungarian border. And that's it. So this is what kind men, this is what gentlemen who are kind men do. We tell the truth, we accept the truth, we see the truth in somebody. And if you're, because whose glory are you doing this for? Yours or Christ? Christ is the glory. Christ is the glory. So you attempting to find this artifact and sell it to a museum for fame and fortune is not for Christ's glory. He already has all the glory that there is. It's for your glory, and that's ego. And so then you have these righteous ones that are there to protect. These are the Knights Templar. And the Knights Templar come in all shapes, forms, and sizes. And if what we're learning from Toronto and Negative 48 and Sabrina Gal and Bryce from Atlanta, if what we're learning the truth, and I know it's the truth about Armenia because of what they've done to Armenia, then of course, you know, you're going to have people that look like this that are the Knights Templar. And once again, what is the oath sworn by every single one of these groups? Freemasons, Knights Templar, the Gnostics, and the Essenes, to protect the truth of Jesus Christ and his bloodline and Solomon's temple. And these are the secrets. This is the sacred truth, this one story that plays itself out in the alphabet from A to Z, which is where the numbers come from. A is
God's
1,
language.
Z is 26, which is God's language, how he communicates to us. So this is what they're here to protect. And that's why the Freemasons had to become builders, because in this modern world of changing, we're morphing. So they have to morph and they have to change into builders, because they have to be the architects, or it was going to be hell on earth, and they can't have that. And so this is why the Freemasons did what they did, and what they built is all based on God's sacred geometry, phi and pi, and it's just absolute freaking genius, and it totally is. And we have to give them their due, and we have to know that there's a true Freemasonry, and then there's this bullshit cabal thing that was created after they took out or took down.
I think we're going to
Freemasons.
discover that ancient peoples, I think they were brilliant. I think we're going to discover that there were other. I just had a complete brain.
Well, the other, you were talking about this earlier, the other cultures that truly were the light of the world. They were, and that just means you're illuminated. So they are the true Illuminati. So again, this is what the Cabal found, is that with all of these ancients, that they were illuminated. That's why they created the order of the Illuminati, because they're trying to say that we are the illuminated ones because we murdered all of you, because you don't think to defend yourself, because good and righteousness and pureness doesn't foresee this evil coming and knows that you're eternal. So, you know, they stick a knife in your back, which is the Cabal way, and then they think they're all this and that. And they think that they're enlightened ones because they then stole all this information. So they never earned it, right? So one of the things in that movie about the dinosaurs, which is another Spielberg movie, everywhere there's Jurassic Park. So everywhere there's Spielberg, there's you know, another gateway to truth that he's blocking. But that one professor is the mathematician, is just simply saying that you're building on genius, on the shoulders of genius from others that you don't fully understand. And so you talk about this this, you know, splicing whatever genes you can find together back and forth, and like there's no problem taking the DNA from a particular frog and then using it to recreate this dinosaur. Don't you know that with some of these West African you know, river frogs, that they're able to randomly change their sex? So if you have an island and there's not going to be any procreating, because you're not going to allow. And then he says, you know, oh my God, you know, the lack of humility before creation is astounding here. You're not going to allow you know, natural creation to take place. So you're going to deny them, you know, the X or the Y chromosome. You're only going to have in a homosexual population, by the way, it was only the males, right? Because they weren't going to allow the females. It's a little jab at the Cabal there, and which is what they're showing you in plain sight. And so this is what you see. You see this lack of humility before the miracle of God and God's creation, which is what these people are. And so that, he's just basically saying in this movie, it's just incredible. You just rape and you take without fully understanding, and then you splice things together. You think it's all going to be tickety boo.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
That's right. Exactly the point that was being driven home there in that movie. So the Knights Templar morphed into the Freemasons for two reasons. One, the world was changing, and the world was changing into finite structures. We were becoming more of a warring species. So therefore the need for walls and therefore castles to be able to protect oneself or shelter or nurture armies and then attack one another. All the crap that happens by living out of your left brain. So then they had to change. Now, here's the other thing, and this is really fantastic news. And this God showed me last night. This is so true. There is a treasure. So in the movie National Treasure, they're talking about this necessity, and he has to find it because he can't let Ian and the Canaanites find it, because then they'll steal it for themselves, and then they'll learn from the scrolls of the Library of Alexandria and everything else. Which, again, this is the real treasure. Is this gnosis that comes from these enlightened ones.
They are corrupted by pure power, so they would do evil.
That's right. So once again, the righteous noble man says, I'm going to commit a crime because I have to. And that's what the founding fathers of the United States did. They were committing high treason that would have had them hung and quartered because they had to. And you see, this goes to the heart of the Constitution of the United States of America, which says that not only do you have the right to stand up in the face of enemies, both foreign and domestic, you have the obligation. And see, this is all about kind man. This is all about becoming a knight, a king, a true king of this land, which lives in deference to God's authority. That's what a knight is. And you have to rise up and you have to stand up and you have to break the laws of the land if it means the difference between life and death, between losing. And because they were successful in breaking the Freemasons apart, look at where we're at. So what we're going to get into in just a sec is that, but the Freemasons are geniuses because they're alchemical first and builders second. So they didn't capitulate.
Now remember, we're talking about the true Freemasons, not the ones that were infiltrated by the cabal and they've turned everything.
And are now the hospital administrators and police captains.
So make no mistake, there are two divisions between these secret societies there, and they've many of them have just been completely perverted.
How do you explain George W. Bush? He's a complete moron, but he's in the secret system. No.
Skull and Bones Society.
No. They're not teaching these idiots anything. These idiots don't have the capacity to know or to learn any of this stuff. So it's not Freemasonry. It's just the taking down of Freemasonry. And then it's calling their perverted Freemasonry. So you hate Freemasonry. And there's a lot of comments in the show. Charlie, I love you. But no, I'm not giving the Freemasons a pass on this one. No. And I get that. I'm not angry with you at all and whatnot. Take your time. Absolutely take your time. But I'm telling you the truth. And what the truth is.
Have there been bad ones? Yes. Have they hurt people? Yes. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah. But the creation of Freemasonry is coming from the Essenes, coming from the Gnostics, coming from the Knights Templar. So the second aspect of the Knights Templar that forced them to morph and to go underground, literally, is the hiding of this treasure. Now, this treasure is not so much Spanish doubloons and gold medallions and things like this. It includes some of those things, but the real treasure is the art that we create in awe of God, of Jesus, of the Mother, what we're inspired to do and what we're inspired to create and what we're inspired to write down. This is our world. This is our reality. This is our earth. And they've turned it into the world, which is the delusion, but it's our earth. This is, we ate of the apple of that tree of knowledge of good and evil, which means we fell from singularity into duality. And so we're dominated by our left brain. So this is our world. And so we're co-creators with God. And so there's genius and brilliance when these people have become in alignment, like Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin, silence, do good. So posing himself as a middle-aged widower, writing letters to his brother's newspaper, the New England Courier, or Current, I think it was, yeah, New England Current, and writing letters. And you need to read these things. I've not read them all, but just taking a glance through them, it's stunning stuff. It's just all about the necessity for going within oneself and stillness and silence. And it's essentially, it's talking about meditation without saying it. It's explaining what God is. It's super illuminated thinking, which is why you see Freemasons in position of power, because they know better. You can't have the ignorant masses in power. That's why George Walker Bush was never the president of the United States. He was a figurehead, but you can't put an idiot like that in the position of authority. You have these pseudo intellectuals that think they're better, stronger than God, that are puppet masters behind the scenes, putting somebody else in there. But that's why you'll always find these Knights Templar, Simon Templar, the Saint, right? Leslie Charteris and his novels, the Saint novels, and his creation of Roger Moore. Roger Moore played that in the television series, which is fantastic. Again, absolutely fantastic. That is a right brain production, that television series.
A good example of a Templar Knight.
It is, and that's what they're showing you, and this is why it's so important. So that's the real Masons that were behind that, and Leslie Charteris is a real Mason, and that is real Masons that were behind producing the TV series, because they're trying to show you what's going on and what real Masons stand up for. So if you know anything about Simon Templar, the Saint, in the novels or in the TV series, he stands up for everyone who is being downtrodden by this cabal. And he hates them. And the police hate Simon Templar because he doesn't look for their justice. He's looking for God's justice when one breaks the laws. And Simon Templar, in one of the stories, went so far as to commit murder. Same thing with Sherlock Holmes, what they're portraying, BBC Sherlock, when who's the newspaper magnate, Magnuson, vile snake creature, lizard-like, right? And that's just reptilian left brain Phoenicians, Zionist fake Jews, Canaanites. And that's why in that episode, Sherlock is pushed to a point where there's no other option, and he literally shoots Augustus Magnus, and Augustus, spoiler alert, tying in the lies of the Roman Empire. The liars are the Roman Empire, Augustus Magnusson. And Sherlock shoots him because in that moment there's no other way. And Simon Templar did the same thing as well. And that's where you have to go to at times to deal with this evil. So the Knights Templar went underground, literally, and morphed themselves because the world was changing. So they had to become the builders, which are these Masons, and that's why they call themselves Freemasons, because they're alchemists. But because the treasure is real, and they knew that if this treasure, Solomon's treasure, the treasure of King Solomon's temple, which is our temple, if this got into the wrong hands, very, very, very dangerous. Now, they would want it mostly for the material wealth and the value. Many of the things that would be in this are beyond, you couldn't put a price on them. So they're so valuable. But the main things would be the enlightened writings and teachings that are in this that show us this way and show us the path to enlightenment, which is God, which would be stilling and silencing the mind, taking no thought, and going within oneself. So in that, they have had to hide this treasure. And so when you watch National Treasure, it's clue after clue, and the grandfather is now really frustrated and angry and jaded at this point. He's angry with his son Benjamin Franklin gates were continuing on with this ridiculous practice because it's used up their fortune and whatnot. And again, that Ben Gates, played by Nicolas Cage, what he's doing is he's doing this because this can't fall into the wrong hands. And then what's the first thing that he does when the treasure is found? And the first thing that he sees to is that it goes to the people, right? So they're just showing you. So National Treasure 1 is showing you that this treasure is real. It's tying in the Freemasons to the Knights Templar powerfully, and it's showing you that what this treasure stands for, what this means, and that this is a life or death, and you can't fail. This is Sun Tzu in The Art of War. Once again, you cannot fail. You cannot let these monsters get their hands on it. So everything was another clue, which led to another clue, which led to another clue, which it's genius stuff. It truly is. And they were working in real things that really, really, really happened. I've done the research on this. Virtually everything that they talked about in that movie, National Treasure, is real, like those ocular devices attributed to Benjamin Franklin that allows you to see on multiple levels to get a higher meaning to the symbology, to these symbols. So it's incredible stuff. So that treasure is real, and that the Knights Templar went underground to hide, and that's why it's in America. America was gained by the Knights Templar.
It's kind of interesting talking about the oculars, and there was like a green lens and a red lens.
Yeah.
And when you put those, which is the frequency, right?
Left brain, right brain.
Frequency. They're just, everything's vibrating at a different frequency. So they're putting on a red and a green, and it brings up something that was hidden there before that we couldn't see. What does that tell you? There are things here that we cannot see that are in our, they're just not in our frequency. Our eyes can't pick them up. Our subtleties can't, but our senses, there may be some senses that can pick things up, but you just can't put your words to it. You just can't see it. So it becomes, I can't, if I can't see it, I don't believe it.
It's not real. But remember, all of those things that Colleen's talking about are seeable. If it's here on the materialistic plane, then we can absolutely experience it, because that's what this is, a physical experience.
That's what I'm getting at. When we regenerate and our eyes become clear and the veil becomes lifted and we can see different colors, maybe that weren't here before. I know a lot of people have been on plant medicines or things like that, and they've had experiences where they say, I've seen colors that I've never seen before. And it's like, it brought them to a different frequency. And I'm not suggesting you do that, but what I'm saying is that we have the ability to go into those other frequencies. And when we regenerate, when we get ourselves to this point of clarity and clean alkaline being, we become this crystal clean vessel, we'll be able to see things we've never seen before. And so when we say the best is yet to come, there are things out there that we have no idea have been there. And they're going to be amazing. We're going to be sharing in this incredible, beautiful future that is going to blow our minds. Well, hopefully not literally, unless we're electrical, but that's why we're trying to clean everything up. But it's going to be amazing, people. So just hang on, be patient, trust in the plan.
Trust in God. I mean, again, when we say trust in the plan, it's God's plan. And this is the beauty of negative 48.
It's playing out.
Yeah,
right before our eyes.
He's just showing you in plain sight that clearly that this is God's plan. All of this is happening, and that these key figures are here for a reason, because for whatever reason but we're all the chosen ones. We're all chosen to play the role. Most just don't believe that because you refuse to play the role.
Each one of us is the hero of our own journey.
Yeah, and we're all
the Knights Templar. We're all the Silence Do Good. We're all Q. We're all It's amazing. It's beautiful.
But you have to walk into those shoes. You have to walk into this.
You have to earn it too.
Now there's a comment in the chat, and I just want to see if I can find it here. And the individual is correct about Cadillac being a GM product. that is Tesla logic, just saying the Cadillac is a GM product, not a Ford product. The origin of this exalted line of car came from Henry Ford, but Henry Ford didn't live to see it through, and that essentially it made its way to GM, and GM founded this product, which is Cadillac. But it's the origins of it came from Henry Ford, and that he wanted something even more exalted than his Lincoln line. And this is where it came from. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to share screen and just activate that. And now, wait, it might not pick up the movie. No, it should, right? So Justin, I should be able to just show a QuickTime video, correct? And all I have is just an image. So if Justin's listening in here, I'm just showing an image. I just don't see it in my options unless it's this, there's the desktop. Is it this whiteboard?
Sometimes we're technologically.
No, it's a white.
Whatever that is. Where is it on your screen?
It's just I'll just minimize all of this. So
you just have it on your screen, have it up.
Maybe that's why
I know. Quick time.
So it's just a stilled image, but this is from the movie. So let's go back in here. Yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Sorry about that, Justin.
Sure.
We're good. There. Okay, so now everybody should be seeing this. Now this is the director, the writers and the director of the movie National Treasure made the point. So when the FBI come to Benjamin Franklin Gates' door, that's John Voight, played by John Voight, and Patrick Gates. And when they come to his door, he's all tied up because, of course, he can't look like he's an accomplice for his son stealing the Declaration of Independence. So he's all tied up, and they said, and he stole my car. And he says, don't worry, Mr. Gates. We'll find your son, and we'll find your car for you. And then as soon as they say that, the movie cuts. And all these directors, they do this. Star Trek does this all the time as well, in virtually every Star Trek episode. And they'll focus on an image or a license plate. Mel Gibson likes to do that in his movies as well.
So these are comms.
And then you have to look at these license plate, massive comms. And so you have to look at this. So this is the symbol for Cadillac. And I want to break this down for you and to show you what this is worth fighting for, what we're fighting for, why it's worth dying for. And this is everything. So what you're looking at is Solomon's Temple and Jesus Christ. I kid you not. So in looking at this, you see these the olive branches or the wreath that is here. These are the greater wings. So these would be the two cerebrum of your brain, the right and left hemispheres of the brain, which create the greater wings. And this bottom portion of this goblet here would be the lesser wings. So here you have the lesser wings and the greater wings. So then that tells you that this is the third ventricle of the brain. And so what are we looking at inside the third ventricle of the brain? Well, first off, I think it's pretty straightforward, easy to see. You're looking at a wine glass. Can you all see that? So at the base of it, I'll just point down here. You're looking at a chalice, the Chalice of Christ. And so at the bottom, you see the rounded flat plane, the flat disc, the level disc at the bottom to give balance, because it won't tip over. And then here's the stem, which is the brain stem, and this is going from Atlas. So you see this
33rd vertebrae.
This at the bottom down here, which is this flat disc, this is Atlas. This is symbolized by Atlas, which is the end of your spine, the end of the physical body, and up into heaven on earth, which is within the mind. And growing out of Atlas is the brain stem. That's why goblets and wine glasses all talk about stem. This is because it's your brain stem. They're giving you the truth in plain sight here. That's your brain stem. And it shows it symbolizing going right into the third ventricle of the brain, the very centermost, innermost part of you. Now, if you look at the top, you can't miss this. That's a goblet. That's a wine glass. That's a goblet. Ah, I moved it. And so that's a goblet. And so what that goblet represents is that's the Ark of the Covenant. I kid you not. Every ancient culture talks about this, and it is.
And what's inside the Ark of the Covenant?
So what's inside the Ark of the Covenant, of course, would be the 10 Commandments, which is, you know, the Word of God.
Or they suggested also that it was a weapon. Or
No,
very powerful.
that's Steven Spielberg and the Cabal and Indiana Jones.
But it had awesome power.
Suggesting, but yes, it had this awesome power, which, by the way, turns out to be an angry wind that goes through. The light goes through all of these dark, unrighteous ones and bypasses all the righteous ones. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, so the breath of God, and it knows. So what you're looking at, of course, so first off, what we're looking at again is with the wreaths, we're looking at the third ventricle of your brain. With the wine glass, you're looking at the chalice of Christ. So this is the Holy Grail. So the Holy Grail has been found. So all these years we have movies and shows and books and everyone's searching for the Holy Grail. Charlie and Colleen found it for you.
Where's the best place to hide something?
Inside of you, in the very centermost, innermost part of you. So this is the Holy Grail. This is the Holy Grail. This is the chalice that holds and of course it's got changed over the years. So they call it the blood of Christ. No, the oil of Christ. And this literally is the optic thalamus, the light of the world, and that is. So this is the optic thalamus, the light of the world, and this is what holds the chrism oil, the Christed oil that we rise up to. And then when we have the baptism of fire, the fire ignites the oil and your lamp is lit. And then you are one of the wise virgins. And this is where the symbology comes from. So this is the chalice of Christ. This is the Holy Grail. It is.
And this is the information that the secret societies hold.
Right.
Near and dear to their heart.
And they don't want to do anything with it. They just want to keep it away from you. That's all. They're not using it because they have no interest in going anywhere near God. They're happy to die and be reincarnated back into evil forms. So now the cup is filled, and I want you to just look at this. It's filled with 10 layers. 1, 2, 3. The white, black, white is 3. Then below it, you see left brain, right brain, left brain, the duality, showing the duality. But there's 2 layers. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's your 10 commandments. So this is the symbology of the 10 commandments in the Ark of the Covenant. So they're showing you that this is the third ventricle of your brain. They're showing you that this is the chalice of Christ.
And it's a right and a left hemisphere.
That's right. And they're showing you that this is the Holy Grail. And they're showing you that this is the Ark of the Covenant, holding the Word of God.
Red shift, blue
these
shift.
10 commandments. And this is
dark and light.
Dark and light, red shift, blue shift. It's the same thing. It means the same thing. Red shift, blue shift is the same thing between light and dark. Blue is light and red is dark. And that's the symbology. So
duality everywhere.
It's all there for you. So why do you think that the filmmakers, in telling this story, trying to tell you who the real Freemasons are, and for you to not hate the Freemasons, that you're being lied to about who's trying to save you, this is why. And this is why they do these things. And they hope that someone will come along eventually and go, look, and there's your proof. Look, you can't miss this. Not even the most jaded individual can miss that symbology. Of course, if you don't know anything about human physiology, then maybe you would deny it. But there it is in plain sight. And this is what the Freemasons stood for, and this is what they're about. That's Solomon's Temple. What we were just looking at is Solomon's Temple, but we're also looking at Jesus Christ. So do you see why would they show that? Why would Patrick Gates' car be the Cadillac? Why the Cadillac? Why would the director of the movie go from that scene? Don't worry, Mr. Gates, we'll find your son and we'll find your car. And then boom, for one divine second, it zooms in and pauses on that logo, because it tells you who the Freemasons are. And what did I tell you? Freemasons, to the Knights Templar, to the Gnostics, to the Essenes, they all swore this oath. Then the Essenes and Gnostics were before this coming of Joshua, Jeheshua, and Mary Magdalene, but of course they know the night sky, they know the omens, they know the symbology of what is coming, and that is the protection of this Christed child, And so they swore to protect the teachings and the bloodline of Jesus Christ and Solomon's Temple. That is Solomon's Temple. And where is Jesus Christ within you? In your mind, in the innermost, centermost part of you, which is the third ventricle of your brain. And for 3 years, Colleen and I have been teaching this podcast after podcast. I've made high-res image after high-res image to show you the truth of what's inside of your head. It's a miracle. We are miracles. We are the pinnacles. And like Colleen,
we are able.
And like Colleen beautifully shared with all of us earlier tonight, that Jesus Christ said, you will do greater things than I. And he said that, and you can't deny that. And he went into great detail about that as well. And the reason being is because he shows us the way. Jesus Christ is the light of the world. So don't let anyone tell you that what we're going to find out is that the cabal faked Jesus. No, they don't make shit up. They just lie about it. So they've been lying to us about what Joshua, Jeheshua, what Jesus Christ really was and stood for and stands for to this day. And they, of course, exercise the feminine right out of this. So there's, Mary Magdalene's a whore. Wow. They're just such evil, evil bastards.
So they tried to steal the motor of the world.
So the Freemasons are the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar are these ones who wore the armor of God. The armor of God. They wore the armor of God and were bold because they knew they would be protected in this divine protection of what truly is divinity.
We're not going to let the evil side take away the true Freemasonry.
Yeah.
We're not going to let the evil side take away the true Knights Templars. We're not going to let them take any of that away.
And while there'll be some tonight that will appreciate the podcast, think that it's a good podcast and stuff, I really think in time that this podcast will be looked at very warmly by a lot of people, because this is a very powerful truth that's coming to you before they have to come out through the miracle, through the eucatastrophe, and say, just to let you know. So what am I getting at? Who are the white hats? So we always attribute this to just the military and then a few families. But who are these few families? Oh shit. We're having an earthquake. It's a big one. Stay with us, folks. Hopefully it stops. Yikes.
Okay. A little bit frightened.
It's okay. Justin, Eugene and Justin, you guys are okay? Stop already. This is ridiculous. No, come on, stop. No, stop. This is ridiculous. Come on.
Oh.
Stop, guys. Stop this.
I love you guys.
We love you so much. This is just scary. It's a big one. Stop.
I just want my house to stop shaking.
Yes. We've already been through a doozy
Come on,
for
guys.
Colleen. Stop,
Thank you, God.
stop,
Are we still online?
stop,
We're still shaking.
stop.
Thank you. We love you guys.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Sorry about this, everyone. Gonna just,
Apparently the dark side doesn't. Are you okay, Shani? Are you? We're okay. We're okay.
Shani's okay?
Okay. Me too. We're just on a podcast. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll call you right away. I love you.
So we intended to go a little longer with this, and we wanted to bring Justin and Eugene in to discuss this as well.
We could do it tomorrow.
And we could look to continue the discussion part if everyone wants to come back in and ask lots and lots of questions. What I should be doing at this point, though, everyone, is I need to, with all the construction that's been going on, I need to make sure that nothing fell down and that no one's been hurt, because we have 61 animals here now with all the cats, and they're out at nighttime. So with that, it appears to be over. That's a brutal earthquake. That was powerful, and that went on and on and on and on.
Let's just hope they were blowing up tunnels.
Yeah, that's not normal. So
Thank you guys so much for all of your love and
yeah.
sharing all of that with us.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll be back probably in the next couple of days.
Okay.
We love you so much.
So thank you for all that. We love you so much, Justin and Eugene. Sorry about that, and maybe we can look at something tomorrow night. Thank you, everyone. We love you. We'll see you.